Have you seen a documentary called Planet of the Humans?
Yes.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it highlights some of the hypocrisy of this whole agenda. And the bit that jumps out of my mind was as a electric car company announces this new car, the press are all around it, it's being charged, and a reporter says to the woman doing all the presenting, senior management, so it's zero emissions. Yes, it's zero emissions. It's amazing. It can go for 100 miles, blah, 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 blah. Right. How does it get its energy? Oh, look, we were charging it now. It's being charged on a national grid. Right. In this state, do you know where most of that energy comes from National Grid? Oh, yeah, I think it's oil, gas. And it's like, so it's not zero emissions because you're using the fuel that gives off emissions. You're just claiming something that's not true. It's a bit like it's a magic trick. It's a con. Look at the shiny thing. Look at the shiny thing. While this hand does something else to make it look like magic.
Well, the chap Moore who produced the documentary, he's very much left wing in America.
Michael Moore. Yeah.
Michael Moore, that's a boy, um, and he basically rubbished renewables that they just don't work because they rely on fossil fuels to back them up. But his conclusion was that it was a right wing conspiracy of all the people that are making a fortune, which comes back to what you said earlier on. There's a left wing push, but there's a right wing capitalization of high energy costs.
Yeah. So let's get into that. So I didn't think of this that clearly until I read a part of your book, which was I fully understand that one of the bigger pushes of this is the far left. And the far left are lunatics and they're pushing all sorts of things, trans identity, all sorts of things that I just think are complete lunacy. But they're also pushing this. And I sort of understand it because the more far left you are, the more you're a communist, Marxist, that sort of thing, where let's all live together in communes and raise each other's children. This is the way we should be until white, straight men got involved in the world and ruined it all. That hence why Oxford now are looking at 15-minute cities where if you drive outside of your area, you're going to get fined. All these are communist ideas of a time that never existed, which the far left think is some sort of utopia. That I sort of understand. I don't understand it, but I understand where they're coming from on that. And I've always treated this green lunacy from that perspective. But then reading your book, you brought something new into it, which I thought was really, really clever, which was the people running the huge organizations, these capitalist organizations are not communists. They're doing it because it makes money. And if you can make money somewhere, people will take advantage of that. So the people, who are making the solar dishes and making this and making the cars, they know none of this really works and isn't cutting emissions, but that's not their problem. If their bottom line is looking really good because they're involved with this and they're getting huge government grants and subsidies to run it, would they, in a certain way, they would be foolish not to take advantage of the situation in front of them.
Yeah. Okay, let me take both sides of it. There's a left wing side, which is full of rich, white, privileged people who really don't have much to crap about in modern society because actually it's pretty good. But they must have a cause. They must find something wrong. That therefore they have found a new religion basically, which is climate change. Now you can call them loony, but we're all subject to jumping on a bandwagon. So let's not call them loonies because they're very clever people, and they honestly believe the propaganda that they're pushing out to everyone. Then take the right wing. Now this week at Davos, we've got 2,500 rich people who have left their seaside homes, so they're not worried about sea level rise. They've flown in their private jets, so they're not worried about emissions. But they also want to change the world. They think they're psychologically better than the rest of us, and they need a cause to make the world a better place for us all. I forget who it was in a quote in my book who said that people don't get up, people who want to save the world don't get up in the morning wanting to do bad things. They want to do good things, but end up doing bad things. So you can't criticize people's motivations. They just get very mixed up in it. The oil companies a long time ago gave up opposing the green agenda because they knew they couldn't win. So if you can't beat them, join them. So BP now, instead of paying tax in the UK on the massive profits they make, they invest it in offshore wind, knowing that offshore wind will keep prices high and the long-term profits will keep rolling in.
Wow, it's wow. That's deep. That's a lot of thinking if that's what you're going to do with your profits to keep your basic product as high as possible to make money. But there's sort of,
why wouldn't you, if you were running a business, would you not want a monopoly that allows you to push prices up?
oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's just business practice.
Yeah, and it's human nature. Human nature is, and that's why we've been a successful creature. Human nature is to try to get the most out of everything we do. And we will bend the rules. Some people will break the rules. That's why we have criminality in all countries, because some people will go too far. This reminds me a little bit of the new Labour government when Tony Blair said to all the hospitals, you've got to get everybody from A&E who needs a bed, they've got to be in a bed in so many hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is. And all of a sudden over the year, all the hospitals were meeting the target. And some investigative journalists went into hospitals to find out, how are they managing this? And if they can manage it, why weren't they doing it for decades? And it turns out all doctors were doing was when they knew someone needed a bed, they would put them in a hallway, sit them on the bed. That was classed as, now you have a bed. Well, that's not what was meant by the directive from New Labour government, but we find ways around things to be successful. And that's exactly what these companies are doing now.